see where we left off.
I just finished relating
Cross country. So
the issue from basketball.
cross country.
Yeah. But what happened in that, and I'll tie it into the fact that how I ran into Coach Bentley, and he encouraged me to go out for track.
Did they honor the original scholarship through track as well?
Yes. Basically, Bentley argued for me to stay on with the scholarship, but because there were no track scholarships offered, and that's why I ended up staying on as an athletic trainer to make sure that's what it was. It was in reference to that. So change your cross country reference to track and field.
Track and field.
Yeah. Yeah.
Keep forgetting about that title change.
Mm-hmm.
I read in Dr. Flatt's book, Both Alike to the Mountains, and
Right.
he published a separate little pamphlet
Mhm.
where he talked about this as well, but talked about hardships you not only you, but some of the other black athletes
Mhm.
suffered in the region. But what were some of your experiences in the Morehead area? Were you ever asked to leave a restaurant? Or?
Yeah. Well, when we first came to Morehead, there were 10 black students there. There were 8 guys and 2 females, and they were nursing students. They were from Harlan, Kentucky, and so they would go home every weekend, and so and I was there playing basketball. We practiced and so forth. So basically, my social life on the campus was zero, other than playing basketball. To go downtown, Dr. Doran had met with us and told us basically that the university was his promise to integrate, but the Morehead itself was a little reluctant to go downtown. He would outline that there were some spaces down there where we just couldn't go to the barber shop. Trying to think of one of the restaurants, Stromboli's, is it still there? It was right on the corner, an Italian meatball joint. We could go there. Eagle's Nest, off limits. We could not go to the Eagle's Nest. And the reason for that, the town basically said that we needed someplace exclusive to basically say that it was not going to be integrated. So we knew that, again, I say coming out of eastern Kentucky, knowing that the signs were placed up for colored waiting rooms and all this other, then we just didn't bother to go there. We never had any incident of going downtown and saying we couldn't. We just knew and just didn't bother. We stayed on campus. Howard Murphy came on board in 1960, and Howard graduated from Springfield South High School. He and Paul Warfield were supposed to go to Ohio State together. Paul Warfield goes, he makes All-American as a wide receiver there. Murphy comes to Morehead with the same skills that Warfield had, and he just lit the whole conference up. He was able to basically have a very major impact as a freshman, and they were just absolutely couldn't believe that this kid could play that well, but he was supposed to be a Big Ten player. So Morehead was lucky that he was able to come. Being from Ohio, he had to make some adjustments. Where I had no one really to rely on as far as going downtown or getting things organized or whatever, because most of the guys left too on the weekends. I was the only one hanging on campus. So, but I hung out with the basketball team. That's one of the issues for me. Your question in reference to the adjustment between the community and the university, it was not, there were just certain things we didn't do. I was glad to see Murphy come. Now I had a haircut, buddy. My brother-in-law used to cut my hair when we were growing up as kids, and he gave me all the equipment. There was another black student there, Alvanus White from Lexington, Kentucky. His dad was a barber, and we had all the equipment. So we cut each other's hair. We'd guarantee within 3 weeks it looked just like a haircut. So it was our own on the block training with stuff. But there were no major incidents like that. The only major problem I had once when I was a freshman with dealing with the community was we had played a basketball game at Frankfort, Kentucky. And after the game, we go to Frisch's Big Boy, right across the street from Kentucky State. And so Coach Luke takes everyone in. He orders, everyone got the same thing, one meal. He said, this is it. Anybody deviated from that, he'd let you know that this is not, you're not eating even what you're going to have. So we would not deviate from what the menu was. But we sat there, and people were coming in, they were getting orders and eating and so forth. And all of a sudden Luke says, well, why aren't we being served? And I said, Coach, our problem is that I'm on the team and they are not going to serve me, any of us while we're here. So Luke was very animated, very outspoken, loud. He had more blue language than you could dream of him. And he let the manager know that this was not, he's on the team. And so we left. He pulled everybody out of there. After, they were preparing all the food and so forth for the rest of the team, Luke said, no, we're going back to Morehead. So we go back to Morehead. We stop at one of the all-night hamburger joints there. And he reports to Dr. Doran the next day. Tells Dr. Doran that, look, the problem that we had last night, we don't need that. We really don't need to have that anymore. So Dr. Doran calls Happy Chandler, who was at that time was governor of the state. And so Happy Chandler said that will never happen again. And it never did. I never had any problem in Kentucky, no other problems in travel and so forth. The word was getting out. The word was there that I was, even as a freshman, a part of the team. So it was an incident that occurred. It was corrected. There was no demonstration. And you have to understand, I guess, historically when I was there before any of the civil rights action that was taking place, and to speed up the process of integration, to make sure that the 54 law was basically being followed. And I think Dr. Doran's idea of moving the process, I guess he may have gotten the idea in looking at Dr. Flatt's book, that in 1951, Branch Rickey was asked to come to Morehead to deliver the commencement address. And he and Happy Chandler were good friends. And at that time, Chandler was commissioner of baseball. So it happens, though, that one of Happy Chandler's good friends his roommate in college was Dr. Lappin, and Lappin Hall is named after him. They were at Transylvania together. So at that particular time, I don't know, whether or not they had gotten together, but Branch Rickey's concept of this noble experiment that he did with Jackie Robinson to bring him on board may have been transitioned with Dr. Doran, that they were able to sit and talk about this process. But the one thing that happened at that time, he just said you had to have someone that was truly, totally a different person. You couldn't be an Uncle Tom. You couldn't be a person that would fly off the handle or deal with the adversity that was coming to make the transition. Well, that was okay for Robinson. Robinson was 26 years of age. He had already gone to the service. He had graduated from UCLA. He had played semi-professional and professional baseball, and a mature person at age 26. We were making the transition, and I turned 18 a week before I started school at Morehead State, and so I was considered sort of mature, but I was still a kid. And so to make these adjustments, to be able to perform in the classroom as well as on the basketball court was an interesting issue for us, because I had to constantly look the other way and be able to handle the plenty of racial slurs or whatever. I mean, that just didn't seem to bother me. Even when I was running track, I would learn to warm up on the backside. I would go way on the other side of the track and warm up, because I knew that if I stayed on the grandstand side, I always would hear somebody yell out, why are you here? But there would never,
How was your relationship with Dr. Doran?
It was, it was something that, even Mrs. Doran, he was, I guess I'm going back, and it's a good question, but I'm looking at it from the perspective that our first day as all freshmen, we would go to convocation, we would go to Button Auditorium, and so we were wide-eyed, curious, sort of afraid as to, most freshmen, what is going to happen here. So Dr. Doran gets up, and his first comments after he welcomes the class of graduating class who had been 1962 each year and so forth, he said, well, let me remind you of one thing. There's a bus going east and there's a bus going west. And I'm saying, as a freshman, wait a minute, Dr. Doran, I'm thinking, something philosophical is going to come out, that Socrates says that, and all of that, John Dewey says, he says, and so he hesitates. And he explains this issue. He said, now, if you are here to get a degree, I can give that to you now. I can let you have this degree. He said, but if you're here at Morehead State to learn and to become educated, that's the type of student I want. And that had, a major bearing in reference to my philosophy of education itself, as I look at it now, is that in order to reach that achievement, the enlightenment that they talk about in Dr. Flatt's book, is why the university was put there in the first place. It was to bring this light of enlightenment to Eastern Kentucky. And that, to me, had a major impact, because now he's saying to us as students, look, that you'll get a degree if you go through that process. But the process of learning and process of education is going to take a long time. and it's going to take more participation for you as an individual, as a student, than you really think. So a lot of students you find in my teaching career, I found that those students who gave that commitment and also participated, they told me exactly, this is what I'm looking for. And you shape my process of doing that this way, if you can do that. Well, that's okay if you have small classes or whatever, but later on you begin to get the technique down of this process of learning. And that's what Dr. Doran was saying about this bus going east and bus going west. If you're not serious about getting this education, you're out of here. And that's true. He said that the freshman class is the largest freshman class we've had here, but we hope that you're going to make it. But that still holds true today. Most students do not absolutely transition and get that, and complete the basic level of understanding as a bachelor's degree person should know. Master's levels are another level of understanding and problem solving, and PhDs are at a totally different level. And so that, when I began to take a look at that, and I had several conversations with him. He would call me in just to say hello or how are things going. And even after the basketball incident, he apologized. It was just a situation that he and Coach Laughlin really never pulled together on. I guess Laughlin had basically made up his mind that, this situation is going to be this way, and I'm not going to change or whatever. And Dr. Doran, same as he would do with the university professors. He would never go in the classroom and saying, well, this is what you're going to teach or this is what you're going to do. He allowed that academic freedom to continue. So he was very, I found him to be very, very comfortable person, but also very strict, and that went along the line, I guess, the traditional model of a university president at the time. Whatever he said, that's what it was, and you didn't want to deal with that. Even the faculty could catch the bus and go back. There's only one time though that I had a situation that the black students really had to rally around, is that when Howard Murphy came on board, his first game going to Eastern Kentucky. Again, we're back in Button Auditorium with the Eastern rivalry, Morehead rivalry thing, which was huge. It still is. But Dr. Doran gets up and says, well, this year we really have a surprise for Eastern Kentucky. We are going to take our little tar baby to Eastern Kentucky, and he will then run and oh my goodness, hush went over the whole place. Well, immediately after convocation, the black students got together. I was sort of the spokesperson because they knew my relationship with Dr. Doran. And Dean Wilson was Dean of Students for men at that time. I was talking with him, and I said, we need a meeting immediately because we cannot continue with that particular idea. And knowing Dr. Doran, I think it was a matter of this sort of paternal issue he had with us as students. And we met at Allie Young Hall in the basement there. And so we were going around the table, and the students were upset, which, we try to explain that. And that was a good group of students, mostly from Ashland. Ted Brown was there. He graduated in 1961, Ted was a major, accounting major. There was Jim Thomas, James Henry Thomas. Jim was a pre-med student, graduated UK with his MD degree. He just retired from University of Kansas. He was there as chairman of neurosurgery. Jim's sister was there, Hermione, elementary education major. Sandy Miller Banks was there. Sandy was an elementary ed major. All of these crew had successful careers. Sandy is now retired. She retired teaching in Boulder elementary schools. Jim Ed Thomas was there. Jim did not graduate, but he was a music major. Ted's brother, Robert Brown, Bobby was music major. Ended up preaching. Unfortunately, Ted has passed. Bobby's passed. Don Brown was there, chemistry major. Jackie Harris from Ashland did not finish, but these are some of the crew that was there. Jennifer Jackson, who married Howard, just retired. She was teaching at Springfield High School. We had, let me see who else was in that crew. I don't want to miss anyone. But that was my support crew. That was my group. If I did not have them, it would have been very, it'd been just a tough time because we could stop and talk and we could hang out and be a part of that. There was another group from Lexington. Alvanus White was there. Bob Finn was there. Ray McClellan was there. But at this meeting, though, I just wanted to go through that because I really would take this opportunity to make sure that crew, and if you ever get a chance to talk to that crew, I mean, they have their story too. It's just not me. Their story, I think, is very important. Jim's story, Jim Henry Thomas, super, because I'm on scholarship and able to do this, but Jim had to work. He worked in the cafeteria. He was work study. He got himself through. He still maintained his GPA to go to med school. It was just a good group. And again, I go back, as I mentioned earlier, that Ashland, Kentucky, really we were able to produce some students from the high school setting. That absolutely was a very exciting group. But back to the meeting that we were having with Dean Wilson. At that meeting, things got a little loud and a little rowdy. I know Sandy and they were just, upset, absolutely upset, because Dr. Dorn had made this statement about a tar baby before all the students. And so Dean Wilson was going through this discussion like, well, he means well, but I said, but Dean Wilson, he made the statement. And we understand that he means well, and we are supportive of it, but we do not need to hear that again. That does not have to, not coming from the president of the university itself. And he set the tone. And he apologized for that. He was very upset, but at that moment, that was really I was a junior then. It was my junior year, first semester junior year, that they were really just saying, no, we're not going to deal with this. We're here because Morehead has offered the opportunity for us, to seek a bachelor's degree in this preparation, for whatever we wanted to do. But that was the only time that we really had, any incident that there was any bearing or whatever, but that was major. That was major, and then things, yeah. But when Dean Wilson was trying to explain, well, Dean, we're not listening to that. We're not even going to listen to your comments about that. We just need to make sure that we get this message over. And I had a chance to meet with Dr. Dorn right after that, and he apologized to Murph. That this won't happen, and it didn't. It didn't happen again. We won the game, but that was a touchy situation. You know, some of the gang around the table said, "Murph, you're not playing. You are not playing in this game. We're going to boycott the game and stuff." And we're
What did they called that? The Battle of the Hog Rifle.
The hog rifle battle, right? That's right. And it was still the game, but Murph performed very well in the game. But there was it was a very this convocation was always on Tuesday. I think it was Tuesday, Tuesday or Thursday.